Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's board meeting. My name is Brad Gottschall, your Lower Paxton Township Manager, and in typical fashion, I will give a brief summary of tonight's board agenda. So consistent with the second-class township code, tonight's agenda begins with the township's meeting to perform its statutory requirement of reorganizing. During this portion, the board will elect officers of the organization, including a chairman, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and assistant secretary/treasurer. It will then appoint various professional staff and members of a litany of boards and commissions. During the business portion of the meeting, under new business, the board will entertain Resolution 19-01, appointing Zelenkowski Axelrod as the township's certified public accountant. The board will then entertain action on an annual junkyard license renewal. Finally, the board, before acting on improvement guarantees and payment of bills, will entertain a lease purchase agreement with West Hanover Township, accepting their proposal to purchase a rescue engine out of the Colonial Park Fire Company. And at this point then, the board members are seated and prepared to begin. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. This is the Monday, January 7, 2019 reorganization meeting. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Gottschall.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. Next item on the agenda is election of the chairman of the board. Do I hear any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Mr. Loman Henry to serve as chairman.
Do I hear a second?
I second that.
So moved and seconded. Are there any further nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the nominations be closed.
Nominations are closed. Everybody, all those in favor of electing Mr. Henry as chairman of the board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Congratulations, Mr. Henry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stein, and thank you, board members. I appreciate the vote of confidence and look forward to electing our other officers so we can get underway with our very large slate of business this year. So the chair will now entertain a motion for the election of vice chairman of the Board of Supervisors.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Mr. Gary Chrisman as the Vice Chairman of the Board of Supervisors.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Are there any additional nominations? Is there a motion to close nominations?
Make the motion to close.
Second.
Second.
All in favor of Gary Chrisman for vice chairman of the board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Chrisman.
Thank you, sir.
Well, the board, or the chair will now entertain a motion for the election of a township secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Chris Judd as our Lower Paxton Township Secretary.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion. I'm sorry, I wasn't reading. I was reading the wrong line.
That's okay.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Any other nominations? Motion to close nominations.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Is there a second? To close nominations.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of Chris Judd for township secretary, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Judd.
Had to twist their arms on that one.
Yeah.
It was questionable.
We'll now entertain a motion for the appointment of a township treasurer.
Mr. Chairman, I'll nominate Robin Lindsay to serve as our township's treasurer.
So moved. Is there a second?
I second that.
Moved and seconded. Robin Lindsay as township treasurer. Are there any additional nominations? Motion to close nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we close the nominations.
Second to that.
Second that.
All in favor of Robin Lindsay for township treasurer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mrs. Lindsay.
Thank you.
We'll now accept a motion for assistant secretary treasurer. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Norm Zumas for Assistant Township Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded that Norm Zumas be assistant township secretary treasurer. Are there any additional nominations? Is there a motion to close nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we close the nominations for Assistant Township Secretary/Treasurer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Mr. Zumas. We'll now move to our professional appointments. These are annual reappointments, and we'll begin with appointment of the township manager. Is there a motion to appoint a township manager?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Bradley Gottschall as our Township Manager.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded that Bradley Gottschall be named township manager. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Bradley, congratulations.
Thank you.
We now should open the floor for nomination of a township solicitor. Is there a motion to appoint a township solicitor?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion, we appoint the law office of Stephen A. Stein as the township solicitor for this year.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint Stephen A. Stein as township solicitor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Stein.
Thank you very much.
We will now entertain a motion for appointment of a township engineer.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Herbert, Rowland, and Grubik as our township engineer.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor of appointing Herbert, Rowland, and Grubik as township engineers signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now we need to appoint delegates, annual reappointments. We will begin with the Capital Region Council of Governments. We need to appoint a delegate and an alternate to the Capital Region COG. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I nominate Robin Lindsay as the Capital Region COG delegate, and Gary Chrisman as the Capital Region COG alternate.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of Robin Lindsay as Capital Region COG delegate and Gary Chrisman as alternate signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. We need to name a voting delegate to the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors Convention and an alternate.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we appoint Robin Lindsay as our voting delegate to the PSATS Convention and Norman Zumas as our voting delegate alternate to the PSATS Convention.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of appointing Robin Lindsay as PSATS Convention delegate and Norm Zumas as alternate delegate signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That brings us to the Earned Income Tax Committee. We need to appoint a delegate and an alternate.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to put the name of Tim Houck as the Earned Income Tax Committee person, and then the Earned Income Tax Committee alternate, Gary Chrisman.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of the motion to appoint Tim Houck as the Earned Income Tax Committee delegate and Gary Chrisman as the alternate signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. It is now time to set a treasurer's bond in the amount of $1 million. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the treasurer's bond.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the treasurer's bond be established at $1 million.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint to set a treasurer's bond at $1 million. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We need to name a depository.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we appoint M&T Bank as our depository for Lower Paxton Township.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded that M&T Bank be the township depository. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's now time to appoint a vacancy board chairman. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Dan Mosel as vacancy board chairman.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All in favor of appointing Dan Mosel as vacancy board chairman, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we have a number of boards, commissions, and committees to appoint, beginning with the Arts Council. Is there a motion to appoint members to the Lower Paxton Township Arts Council?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the appointment of the 5 listed members for a 1-year term, including Ms. Pat Crawford, Ms. Sandra McCann, Ms. Grace Newsom, Mr. Stan Smith, and Ms. Lori Rogers.
Mr. Chrisman has motioned the appointment of the 5 members to the Arts Council. Is there a second?
I second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We need to appoint three members to the Audit Committee. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to appoint 3 members to the one-year term of the Audit Committee: Gary Chrisman, Chris Judd, and Bradley Gutschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor of the appointments to the Audit Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The Community Engagement Committee, we have 6 members to appoint.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to appoint the following citizens to the Community Engagement Committee: Deb Carell, Pat Crawford, Jeff Klein, Jim Seidler, and Tom Thomas, with recommending for the filling the vacancy Denise Hussar.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor of the appointments so outlined for community engagement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The Friendship Community Center Operating Board, we have 2 appointments there. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to appoint Tom Thomas and John Dieter to the Friendship Center Operating Board.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of the appointment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Gary, did you vote on that?
Yes.
I didn't hear.
Sorry.
If I could
The,
just, Mr. Chairman, if I could just add, that's a 3-year term.
Yes, yeah, that actually should have been included in,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. The Greenway Committee, we have 7 members to appoint to a 1-year term. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 7 individuals so named: Ms. Deb Carell, Mr. Jeff Klein, Ms. Susan Landau, Mr. Tillman Larson, Mr. Jim Seidler, Mr. Tom Thomas, and Ms. Catherine Scheib.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. That brings us to the Historical Commission, 7 members to a 1-year term. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for the Historical Commission 1-year term. There are 7 members: William Murphy, David Doyle, Donald Gross, Christy Kessler, Denise Daimler, William Minsker, and Robert Thomas.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor of appointing the named members to the Historical Commission, please signify by saying aye.
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 Parks and Rec, we have 3 appointments. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Robert McIntyre, Jim Seidler, Stan Smith to a 5-year term on the Parks and Recreation Board.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We now need to appoint members to a 1-year term on the Public Safety Committee. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to appoint the following members to the Public Safety Committee, which is a 1-year term: Chief from Colonial Park Fire Company, Chief from Linglestown Fire Company, Chief from Paxtonia Fire Company, President of the Colonial Park Fire Company, President of Linglestown Fire Company, President of the Paxtonia Fire Company, Fire Marshal, Public Safety Director, Representative from South Central EMS, and our Emergency Operations Director.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We need to appoint delegates to the South Central EMS Board. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I will move to approve the 3-year term for Dr. Richard Krieger with an, okay, I'll make that as a motion, and then just as a note aside from the motion, that we really have a second position available for a delegate to South Central EMS Board. And if there's anyone in our community who is would consider serving on this board, we're looking for people who would be willing to serve in that especially those people who might have medical background, that they would be able to bring some expertise representing us on the South Central Emergency Management Board.
Very good. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second all that.
Seconded all of that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have 1 appointment to the Zoning Hearing Board. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to appoint Mr. Jeffrey Staub for a 5-year term to the Zoning and Hearing Board.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to appoint Jeffrey Staub to the Zoning Hearing Board. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have two appointments to the Lower Paxton Township Authority. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve Chris Judd for a 2-year term. I'm sorry, Justin Eby, excuse me, for Chris Judd, and also to appoint Robin Lindsay for a 5-year term.
Okay, the motion is to appoint Justin Eby to a 2-year term, Robin Lindsay to a 5-year term. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Very good. And
Mr. Chairman, just as a footnote, for the authority, just for those who may be watching, those are all staggered appointments as opposed to 1 year or a set number for everyone.
which is good because that way you don't have everybody leaving at
Right,
one
for,
time.
exactly.
As Mr. Chrisman pointed out, we do have an opening on South Central EMS. We also have an opening on the Community Engagement Committee and an opening on the Shade Tree Commission. So if any members of the public would be interested in one of those three positions, we would be happy to have you express your interest to our township manager, who will make us aware of that. So with that, I believe we can now move to the business meeting agenda. And it would appear somebody's been very, very busy because we have approval of minutes for July 17th, August 8th, August 14th, August 21st, and August 21st, budget meeting, and 9/4, all of 2018. Is there a motion to approve all of those minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman, without rereading those dates.
I could ask you to read all those minutes.
Thank you for asking.
Love it.
He'd love it. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, if I may, there are just a number of items that were missed under the reorganizational portion.
There were?
Which would be the establishment of the supervisor's meeting schedule, as well as the authorization
Oh.
to the secretary or treasurer.
Oh, sorry, okay. I zipped right by that. Okay, we'll back up. The meeting schedule will remain the same for the coming year? Oh, I see, there's two things that need to occur. Thank you for pointing that out.
Sure.
Do we have a motion to approve the meeting schedule, which will remain the same, which is that we have our business meetings on the first and third Tuesday and a workshop on the second Tuesday of each month?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
And if
I
I could
see we
just,
also have,
Mr. Chairman, if we could just make a comment, they are going to be at 7 o'clock.
yes, thank you. I see also we have authorization to the secretary or treasurer to pay all fixed expenses which result from prior board action. I guess that's a housekeeping duty as well, so is there a motion for that?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. I certainly want the bills to be paid.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So Bradley, I think that covers everything?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for pointing that out. That then brings us to public comment for any item not on the agenda tonight. Would any member of the public like to address the board on an item not on the agenda this evening? Seeing none, chairman and board member comments. Would any board members like to make any comments other than to wish everybody a happy new year?
That's all I was going to do.
Mrs. Lindsay, you look like you have some
Yeah,
comments.
just two things here.
Thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate a Chief Retired Robert Coburn from the Colonial Park Fire Company. He received the Craig Webb Memorial Award from Dauphin County, and what this is for is a firefighter that has given more than 50 years of his life to the fire service here in Dauphin County. And also would like to thank Paxtonia, Lingelstown, and Colonial Park, the police department, and South Central EMS. They picked 13 individual children from our township, and they went over to Target. They cooperated with Target, and the kids got to do a shopping trip over there. So I wanted to thank all of our volunteer EMS and police department and the fire companies for doing that. And just a reminder, February 25th starts our 11-week Lower Paxton Township Citizens Police Academy. If you haven't done it, I really urge you to take part in it. It is worth the 11 weeks to go and see what actually does happen in the police department, and there is also field trips that go with it. So you can sign up by calling the police department or emailing Officer Walt Cook, and that is February the 25th. So it's a Monday night from 6 to 9, and it's 11 weeks. I think that's it.
You should be a news reporter. You have all that, all the information there. Thank you. Anybody else on the board like to make any comments? Mr. Godshall, manager's report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have 2 items for tonight. Good news, the township has received a $6,000 grant from the Boyd Foundation to be utilized for youth and senior programs at the Friendship Center. Ms. Sandy Prowl, a former Friendship Center operating board member, applied for this grant on our behalf. And as in years past, when we received this grant, the Friendship Center will deposit the money into the Financial Assistance Fund, which goes to providing discounted membership fees to those in need within the community. So we thank the Boyd Foundation for that opportunity. And then also the Friendship Center, another point on them, they will be hosting a fundraiser at Chipotle at 5106 Jonestown Road on Monday, January the 21st, from 5 to 9 p.m. 33% of the proceeds during that time period will be donated to the Friendship Center. So families, this will be a great night out to eat for families within the community. And that is all I have.
Very good.
Will
Thank
we
you.
be sending the Boyd Foundation a thank you note for that?
Yes, the Friendship Center will be doing that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And as also a follow-up, in addition, I know it will go not only to the Boyd Foundation, but to Paul Mahoney, but also a thank you note to Sandy for doing the intervening on our behalf.
Will do.
Thank you.
I think it's worth noting again, too, the Boyd Foundation made a major commitment, a major financial payment to help us acquire some additional land
Absolutely.
up on the mountain, or not us, but the Central Pennsylvania Conservancy.
Right.
But it was made possible because of a grant from that foundation.
Exactly.
And Mr. Mahoney and company were very, very helpful in that, so we really appreciate that. Okay, I see no items under old business, so we'll proceed to new business. And we have Resolution 1901, appointing a certified public accountant to audit the funds and accounts of the township for the 2018 fiscal year. Mr. Gottschall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The township is currently in its last year of a 3-year contract for which proposals were received through the public process with Zelenkovsky Axelrod to provide professional auditing services to the township. Under this contract, the firm will audit the township, the Friendship Center, and the Township Authority accounts for the 2018 fiscal year for the amount of $37,130. The board is required by code to annually adopt a resolution appointing the certified public accountants to audit township funds.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2019-01, which appoints Zelenkovsky and Axelrod to as certified public accountants to audit the funds for the township for 2018, which includes the township, Friendship Center, and the Township Authority, in the amount of $37,130 as presented by Mr. Gottschall.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Any questions or discussions from board members? Any public questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. The Mid-Atlantic Automotive Recovery Services junkyard license needs to be renewed. Mr. Godshall, this is a routine item.
It is, yes. It is. And I also may note, Mr. Chairman, upon inspection of the facility by township staff, the operation was found to be in full compliance with township code.
Very good.
Does anybody ever else apply, or do we just use them?
I believe they are the only and have been the
You're
only.
the only junkyard.
I mean, that was for every year, but I didn't know.
We
if
do
there
this
was-
every year.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know if there was anybody that ever applies other than them. One junkyard's enough.
I was gonna- more junkyards are not part of our community development plan, no. That's, so we have had that moved and seconded, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 No, we don't.
There was no motion on that? Oh, I thought you motioned. No.
I will
Okay.
make the motion,
Well,
Mr.
then I
Chairman.
will back up and ask if there is a motion on it. We got into such a great discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move we approve the Mid-Atlantic Automotive Recovery Service Junkyard Annual License Renewal as presented by Mr. Gutschall.
Anybody like to second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Now, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Get so excited about that you just wanted to move forward.
So exciting.
Yeah. Item C, we have a lease purchase agreement for the lease and purchase of a 2000 KME rescue engine that is out of Colonial Park Fire Company and is going to West Hanover Township. Mr. Gotchel, would you like to explain that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. With this agreement, the township will collect 2 lease payments in the amount of $5,000 from West Hanover Township as a result of an incident which occurred causing the need for a new rig on their behalf. Once the payments are made, West Hanover Township will purchase the rescue engine in the amount of $35,000 on March 1st of this year, satisfying a transfer of the title. I think Director Kashiba and the Colonial Park Fire Company did a great job in marketing this equipment and allowing for a reasonable sale, and so they should both be commended for their efforts.
Absolutely. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman. This is easy.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
I wanted to get that done first. Now, is there any discussion? Any questions? Any public comment or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Subdivision and land development, we have improvement guarantees of 4, all rather routine.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 4 improvement guarantees with 2 escrows, 1 increase and 1 reduction as presented by Mr. Gutschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That takes us to payment of bills for Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. Madam Treasurer?
Make a motion, we pay the bills for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Announcements. I do want to announce that prior to this meeting, the board met in executive session to discuss a number of personnel and legal issues. Any additional comments?
If I could just make one, I want to thank Amber back in the booth there for helping us out the next couple of weeks. And Jody, if you're watching, we'll be keeping you in our prayers.
Yes. Hopefully all's going well there. Yeah. Anybody else? With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.